The waters of the Salt River ran cold and merciless that spring day in 1875. Young Nita Whitehorse, just 12 summers old, had ventured too close to the swollen banks. One misstep was all it took. The current dragged her under, her small body tossed like a leaf in a storm. From the shadow of towering pines emerged a boy of 14, Takoda, son of the neighboring band's war chief. Without hesitation, he plunged into the churning rapids. Their hands found each other amid the chaos, a connection that would echo through time. He pulled her to shore, whispered something in her ear, then disappeared back to his people before anyone could thank him. Would she recognize the fierce warrior who now stands at the edge of her village, come to fulfill a promise made when they were just children? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning mist clung to the Apache village as Nita Whitehorse emerged from her family's wickiup, a small leather pouch clutched in her hand. At 22 summers, her features had matured into those of a woman respected among her people, high cheekbones, deep brown eyes that missed little, and hands that knew the ways of healing. "Grandmother needs fresh willow bark," she murmured to her mother, who nodded without looking up from grinding corn. Nita's fingers traced the intricate beadwork on the medicine woman's sash draped across her shoulder, a sacred gift from her grandmother when she began apprenticing in the healing arts 3 winters ago. The sash, with its pattern of stars and mountains rendered in tiny white and blue beads, marked her as one who walked between worlds, the physical and spiritual realms of healing. As she moved through the village, children paused their games to watch her pass. The medicine woman's apprentice commanded respect, even from the little ones. Elders nodded in acknowledgement, their weathered faces showing approval of the path she had chosen. "Nita," a deep voice called from near the horse enclosure. She turned, knowing before looking that it was Calm, son of a respected hunter and her most persistent suitor. Tall and broad-shouldered, he approached with the confidence of a man accustomed to others' admiration. "My father returns from hunting with 2 deer. We feast tonight. You will join us?" His invitation was delivered more as statement than question. "I must gather medicines today, Calm. The winter stores need replenishing." Disappointment flickered across his face. "Always with your plants and potions. A woman should think of family, of children." Nita's spine stiffened. "And who will heal those children when sickness comes? Who will ease the elders' pain when winter bites deep?" Calme sighed, his expression softening. "You have a gift, it's true, but a woman needs more than plants for companions." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The council speaks of matches to be made before the autumn ceremonies. My father has spoken to yours." A familiar weight settled in Nita's chest. The expectation of marriage hung over her like approaching storm clouds. Not that Kame was unworthy. He was strong, capable, respected, yet something held her back, some memory or dream not fully formed. "I must go," she said, moving past him toward the forest edge. The village had grown tense in recent moons. White soldiers had been seen in the territory, and talks of reservations and relocation rippled through tribal councils. Some bands had already been forced from ancestral lands. Their people had avoided conflict thus far, but Chief Nahale Nita's father spent long hours in council, his face more lined with each passing day. In the forest, Nita found solace. Here among the junipers and pines, gathering the plants her grandmother had taught her to recognize since childhood, she felt most herself. The medicine woman's sash seemed lighter here, its responsibility a privilege rather than burden. She knelt beside a stream, placing fresh willow bark in her pouch, when the water's gurgle triggered a memory that never fully faded. Cold water, the panic of drowning, strong hands pulling her to safety. Then a boy's face, intense eyes promising something she couldn't quite remember. 10 years had passed since that day at the Salt River. 10 years since a boy from another band had saved her life and disappeared. Sometimes in dreams, she still felt the current pulling at her legs, still saw those eyes, foolish thoughts, she whispered, splashing cool water on her face. The snap of a twig made her freeze. Years of desert living had taught all Apache children to recognize the sounds that didn't belong. That wasn't deer or rabbit. Someone watched. Nita straightened slowly, hand moving to the small knife at her waist. The forest seemed to hold its breath. A raven called overhead, breaking the silence, and whatever presence she'd sensed seemed to withdraw. Still, as she gathered her pouches and turned back toward the village, she couldn't shake the feeling of eyes following her movements, eyes that might belong to friend or foe in these uncertain times. The medicine woman's sash felt suddenly heavy against her shoulder, as if carrying a premonition. Change was coming. She could feel it in the wind, in the restless movements of animals, in her own dreams of dark water and saving hands. And somewhere deep inside, Nita wondered if she had been waiting for this change all along. The mountain pass offered no shelter from the biting wind, but Takoda barely noticed the cold. 24 summers had hardened him to discomfort. His fingers absently traced the pattern on his father's shield strapped across his back. A circular wooden frame covered with hardened buffalo hide, painted with lightning bolts, and the silhouette of an eagle. The last gift from his father before U.S. soldiers cut him down 3 winters ago. "We are not far now," he said to no one. His only companion, a dun-colored horse, snorted in response. Takoda had traveled alone for 15 days, crossing territories that once belonged solely to the Apache, but now swarmed with blue-coated soldiers and settlers, with their hungry eyes fixed on Indian land. He had learned to move like a shadow, traveling at night when necessary, avoiding the trails that white men used. The shield had saved him once already on this journey, a chance encounter with 3 trappers who thought a lone Apache would make easy prey. They had not expected to face a warrior trained since boyhood in the arts of combat, nor one who carried the fighting spirit of his father in the shield upon his back. He had left them nursing wounds and wounded pride, taking only what supplies he needed before vanishing back into the wilderness. At the crest of the ridge, Takoda paused, looking down at the valley that stretched toward distant mountains. Somewhere there, beside the Salt River, lay the village he sought. The village where a girl with eyes like midnight pools had once filled his dreams. He had been 14 when he pulled her from the river, a skinny boy proving his courage. His father had been proud that day, though the elders cautioned against too much contact with the neighboring band. Old rivalries and politics kept the Apache bands sometimes distant from one another, even as the white threat grew. "A warrior keeps his word," his father had told him. "Remember that when you become a man." And Takoda had given his word that day by the river, whispered to a half-conscious girl with water streaming from her hair. "When we are grown, I will return for you." A child's promise, perhaps, but among his people, a man's word was sacred, even a boy. The vision had come to him 4 moons ago, during the isolation of his morning ritual for his father. 3 days without food or water, seated before his father's burial place, high on a rocky ledge. The river had appeared in his mind, not as it was that day of the rescue, but calm, sunlight dancing on its surface. A woman stood on its bank, her face turned away. He knew it was her. The sensation was as real as the ground beneath him now. His father's spirit had sent him a sign. The time had come to fulfill his promise. His band's war chief had not understood. "You would leave now, when the bluecoats push closer every season? For a girl from White Mountain Band, who probably doesn't remember your name, I gave my word." Takoda had replied simply. The shield had been his protection in the years since his father's death. The other warriors said it carried powerful medicine bullets, seemed to miss him. Arrows flew wide. Some claimed the shield made him invisible to enemies when danger threatened. Takoda believed only that his father's spirit watched over him through it. Now, as he guided his horse down the rocky slope toward the distant river, Takoda wondered what awaited him. Would she remember? Would her people welcome a warrior from another band? Would she look at him with the same wonder he remembered in her eyes that day by the river? 10 years was a lifetime. She might be married with children. The thought tightened his chest. It doesn't matter, he told his horse. A promise is a promise. 3 more days of careful travel brought him to familiar landmarks. The bent sycamore where the river curved, the distinctive peak that resembled a sleeping bear. He was close now, leaving his horse concealed in a grove of cottonwoods. Takoda moved on foot through the early morning mist. The shield on his back felt suddenly heavy with the weight of his purpose. Then he saw her, a slender figure by a stream, gathering something in a small pouch. Even at a distance he knew. The way she moved, head slightly tilted as she worked. His heart recognized her before his mind could confirm it. Takoda stood frozen among the trees, watching. After 10 years of memory and imagination, she was real again. When she tensed suddenly, sensing his presence, he withdrew silently into the shadows. Not yet. The moment of return required proper preparation. He touched the shield once more, feeling his father's strength flow through the worn hide. Tomorrow, he whispered to the wind. Tomorrow I fulfill my promise. The village stirred like a disturbed anthill as the stranger approached. Children scattered to find parents. Warriors reached for weapons, and elders emerged from wickiups with cautious eyes. A lone Apache warrior walking openly toward their encampment was unusual enough to warrant alarm. Takoda walked with measured steps, neither hurried nor hesitant. Around his neck hung the badger claw necklace, its 5 polished claws strung with intricate beadwork, a sign of bravery among his band, earned when he killed a charging badger with only a knife after it attacked their hunting party. Chief Naheli stood at the village center, flanked by 2 senior warriors. His gray-streaked hair and deeply lined face spoke of wisdom earned through difficult seasons. He raised a hand as Takoda approached, signaling him to halt at a respectful distance. "I am Takoda, son of a Hoti of the Tonto band," he announced, voice carrying across the suddenly quiet village. "I come in peace to your people." Whispers rippled through the gathered onlookers. The Tonto band was known to them, distant kin, though relations had been sporadic in recent years, as each Apache group focused on survival against encroaching settlers. "What brings a Tonto warrior so far from his hunting ground?" Chief Naheli asked, his tone neutral, but eyes sharp with assessment. Before Takoda could answer, a slender figure pushed through the crowd. Nita stopped abruptly when she saw him, recognition dawning in her eyes. The leather pouch she carried dropped forgotten to the dust. "You," she whispered, the word barely audible yet somehow filling the space between them. Takoda's gaze locked with hers. The girl from the river had indeed become a woman of striking beauty, but it was the intelligence and strength in her eyes that held him captive, the same eyes that had haunted his dreams for 10 years. "I am the one who pulled you from the Salt River," he confirmed, his voice steadier than he felt. 10 summers and winters ago. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Most remembered the near drowning of the chief's daughter, though few had seen the boy who rescued her before he disappeared back to his people. Chief Naheli's expression shifted subtly. "You are the river boy. My wife spoke of you. We never had chance to offer proper thanks." "No thanks were needed," Takoda replied, fingers brushing the badger claws at his throat. "But I made a promise that day that I have come to honor." Nita stepped forward, her brow furrowed. "A promise? What promise?" A tall warrior moved protectively closer to Nita Kame, his posture radiating suspicion and something more personal. His hand rested near his knife. "When I pulled you from the water," Takoda said, addressing Nita directly now, "you were barely conscious. I told you then that when we were both grown, I would return." He paused, aware of every eye upon him. "I have come to fulfill that promise." Confusion crossed Nita's face. "I don't remember those words." "You were half drowned, daughter," an elderly woman said, moving to stand beside Nita. Her fingers were gnarled with age, but her eyes were bright with wisdom. The river had nearly claimed your spirit. The old woman, clearly the tribe's medicine woman, studied Takoda with penetrating intensity. Why return now, after so many seas? Takoda stood straight, the badger claws gleaming in the sunlight. My father fell to bluecoat bullets 3 winters past. In my morning vision I saw the river again. I saw her. His eyes returned to Nita. The spirits guided me to honor my word. Chief Nahali gestured to a log at the edge of the council circle. Sit. We will hear your story properly. As Takoda moved to the offered seat, Kemi stepped into his path. What exactly is this promise you claim to fulfill? His voice carried challenge. Takoda met his gaze without flinching. I promised to return for her when the time was right. Return for her? Kemi's hand tightened on his knife. She is not yours to claim, Tonto. Enough, Kemi, Chief Nahali commanded. He comes under peace talk. We will hear him. The gathered villagers formed a loose circle as Takoda took his seat. Nita remained standing, her expression a mixture of wonder and uncertainty. The medicine woman, her grandmother, Takoda now realized, placed a steadying hand on her arm. To your full purpose, young warrior, the chief said. Takoda's fingers traced the badger claws, drawing strength from what they represented. I have come to ask permission to court your daughter, according to the proper ways of our people. A shocked silence fell over the gathering, broken only by Keme's barely suppressed growl of disapproval. Nita's eyes widened, a flush spreading across her cheeks. You don't even know me, she said softly. Takoda met her gaze steadily. No, but I have carried the memory of you since that day, by the river. I have come to know you if you will allow it. The chief exchanged glances with the medicine woman, some unspoken communication passing between them. You will stay as our guest, Chief Nahali finally declared. We will speak more of this after you have rested from your journey. As the crowd dispersed, Nita's eyes remained fixed on Takoda, searching his face as if looking for the boy she barely remembered in the man who had traveled so far to find her. The badger claws at his throat caught the last rays of sunlight, casting small shadows that danced across his chest, like spirits witnessing a promise finally set in motion. 3 days passed with Takoda as an uneasy guest in the village. He had been given a small shelter near the edge of the encampment, close enough to observe, but far enough to mark him as outsider. Each morning he joined the hunters. Each evening he sat quietly at the communal fires, watchful and measured in his words. By the 4th day, the village had divided in its opinion of the stranger. Some admired his skill with bow and horse. Others, particularly those aligned with Keme's family, regarded him with open suspicion. At dawn, Nita knelt by the stream that fed their village, washing her cedar root basket, a tightly woven ceremonial container passed through 5 generations of medicine women in her family. Its distinctive curved handle had been carved into the shape of a bird in flight, and the dark patina of age and medicine herbs gave it a rich, earthy scent. You are out early. She startled at Takoda's voice, nearly dropping the precious basket into the water. He stood several paces away, respecting proper distance between an unmarried woman and man. The morning is best for gathering dew-fresh plants, she replied, her hands continuing their gentle cleaning motions. Grandmother says their spirits are most willing to help at dawn. Takoda nodded, his eyes moving to the basket. That is fine craftsmanship. It has held the medicines of 5 generations of my family's healers. Nita traced the bird-shaped handle. My grandmother says a basket like this chooses its keeper. It chose me when I was only 9 summers old, and so you became a medicine woman. Not a question, but a statement of understanding. I am still learning, she corrected, rising with the basket carefully balanced. There are many seasons of knowledge I have yet to gather. He fell into step beside her, keeping a respectful distance as they walked along the stream bank. Your people watch me like hawks circling a rabbit, he observed. Can you blame them? A warrior from another band appears from nowhere, claiming a childhood promise no one witnessed. You do not remember my words by the river. Nita glanced sideways at him. I remember a boy pulling me from the water. I remember coughing, struggling to breathe. But words? No. Takoda stopped walking, forcing Nita to pause and face him. Yet you knew me immediately. She clutched her basket tighter. I remembered your eyes. The admission seemed to surprise her as much as him. From the village came the sound of a bone whistle, 3 sharp notes calling the council to gather. Your village holds many councils, Takoda observed. These are uncertain times. The bluecoats push closer each season. Some bands have already been forced onto reservation lands. She hesitated. And now there is you. Me? A stranger arriving when tensions are already high. Some wonder about your true purpose. Takoda's expression hardened slightly. I have spoken truth about my purpose. Perhaps. But Kama has been speaking to the elders. He suggests you might be a scout for your band, seeking new hunting grounds, or worse, working with the bluecoats. I would never. I do not say I believe it. Nita interrupted, but you must understand how your arrival appears. They reached the village edge where people were gathering near the council fire. Kama stood with his father and 2 other senior warriors, their expressions grim, as they watched Takoda approach. He calls for a tribal vote on whether you should be asked to leave, Nita murmured, nodding toward Kama. And what do you wish? Takoda asked quietly. Before she could answer, Nita's grandmother approached, her walking stick tapping a slow rhythm on the hard earth. The old woman's face was a map of wrinkles, but her eyes remained sharp as a hawk's. Bring your basket, child, she called to Nita. The council will need the wisdom smoke. Nita nodded, then turned back to Takoda. My wishes are not what matters here, but I would hear more of this promise before you are sent away. She moved to join her grandmother, the cedar root basket cradled carefully in her arms. As she walked away, she felt Takoda's eyes following her, intense and unwavering. The council gathered in a circle, with Chief Naheli seated on a ceremonial blanket at its head. As the chief's daughter and medicine woman's apprentice, Nita took her place slightly behind her grandmother, setting the cedar root basket between them. Kenny rose to speak first, his voice carrying across the hushed gathering. We know nothing of this man except what he tells us. He comes when bluecoats patrol ever closer to our lands. He speaks of promises to our chief's daughter that no one witnessed. I say we cannot trust him. Murmurs of agreement rippled through some of the gathered tribe. Nita's grandmother reached slowly into the cedar root basket, extracting a small bundle of herbs. Without speaking, she cast them into the council fire. Sweet-smelling smoke rose in a straight column, undisturbed by the morning breeze. The smoke rises true, the old woman announced. Let the stranger speak his heart before judgment fall. All eyes turned to Takoda, who stood tall at the edge of the circle, neither challenging nor submissive in his stance. The fate of his promise now hung in the balance, weighed by suspicious hearts and minds that had learned the hard cost of trusting too easily in dangerous times. The council's decision had surprised many. After heated debate and the medicine woman's unexpected testimony about favorable signs in the smoke patterns, Chief Naheli had allowed Takoda to remain, but with conditions. He must contribute to the village needs and prove his worth. More importantly, he must respect proper distance from Nita until a formal courtship might be considered. A week had passed since that tense gathering. Now, Nita led Takoda along a narrow deer trail that wound up a gentle slope above the village. Her grandmother had suggested to many raised eyebrows that the visitor should learn about local healing plants. Who better to teach him than her apprentice? This grows nowhere in my band's territory, Takoda said, crouching to examine a cluster of small white flowers. His fingers hovered above the delicate blooms without touching them. Desert milkweed, Nita explained. The sap helps draw poison from wounds. She reached into the leather satchel slung across her body and removed a small clay object. The healing stone mortar, no larger than her palm, worn smooth from generations of use. Its central depression was stained with the essence of thousands of plants ground against its surface. The stone itself had a distinctive red-brown color, found only in a sacred quarry 2 days' journey north. My grandmother's mother found this stone speaking to her in a dream, Nita explained, setting it carefully on a flat rock. It showed her where to find it, hidden in a cave marked with ancient hand paintings. Takoda's eyes reflected genuine interest. In my band we believe certain stones hold the spirits of ancestors. Perhaps yours speaks with the voice of your great-grandmother. Nita considered this as she gathered several milkweed leaves, avoiding the flowers. Perhaps it seems to know which plants will work together. Sometimes when I'm uncertain of a mixture, I place the ingredients in the mortar and feel which way to turn the grinding stone. You speak of the stone as if it lives. Don't all things? She countered. The stone, the plants, the air, all carry spirit. They continued along the trail in comfortable silence, Nita occasionally stopping to gather small amounts of various plants. Takoda watched her movements with quiet attentiveness. Your grandmother, he finally said. She spoke for me at the council when others wanted me gone. Why would she trust a stranger? Nita placed a sprig of juniper into her gathering bag. Grandmother sees things others do not. She says your spirit walks alongside mine in the smoke visions. She immediately regretted sharing something so personal. Takoda's expression shifted, a subtle softening around his eyes. When I was drowning, she continued more formally, did I say anything to you? You were fighting for breath, but your eyes spoke. He paused. They held no fear, only determination. Even at 12 summers, you were strong-spirited. The compliment warmed her unexpectedly. Nita busied herself with examining a patch of sage. I've watched you these past days, she said. The way you hunt, the way you speak with our elders, respectful but never submissive. You carry yourself like a leader. My father was war chief before the Bluecoats killed him. He taught me that a true leader serves his people, not himself. Is that why you fight the Bluecoats? Kama claims you've led raids against their outposts. Takoda's expression hardened. Kama should mind his own achievements rather than speculate about mine. So you deny it. I defend my people when necessary. Wouldn't you? The question hung between them as they reached a small clearing. A fallen log provided a natural seat, overlooking the valley below. The village appeared as a collection of small shapes, nestled against the curving river. Nita removed the healing stone mortar and began carefully grinding some of her collected plants. The rhythmic motion was soothing, familiar. You never answered my question, Takoda said quietly, about what you wish regarding my staying or leaving. Her hands paused briefly before resuming their work. My wishes are not simple. Try me. She met his gaze directly. I wish to understand why, after 10 years, the boy from the river returned as a man making claims upon my future. Not claims, he corrected. An offer. There is a difference. An offer based on a promise I don't remember. Takoda leaned slightly closer, careful to maintain proper respect. Then let me earn your trust now, not from memories of the past. The sincerity in his voice touched something inside her. Nita found herself studying his face, the straight line of his nose, the small scar near his left eyebrow, the intensity of his dark eyes. She wondered what he had endured in the years since pulling a drowning girl from the river. Perhaps that would be wiser, she conceded, returning her attention to the mortar. A distant cry from the village interrupted the moment. They both stood, instantly alert. More shouts followed. Riders, Takoda said, his keen eyes spotting movement on the distant trail. Bluecoats. Nita quickly gathered her belongings, tucking the precious healing stone mortar securely into her bag. Their brief moment of connection dissolved into immediate concern for the village below. We must return quickly, she said, already moving toward the trail. Takoda caught her arm gently. Wait, let me go first. If they're hostile, the protective gesture surprised her. For a moment, she glimpsed what kind of man he truly might be beyond warrior or suitor. Someone who instinctively placed himself between others and danger. Together, Nita insisted, meeting his gaze steadily. My people will need their healer if trouble comes. He nodded once, respect evident in his eyes, and they hurried down the trail toward whatever awaited them below. The village erupted in controlled urgency as word spread of approaching soldiers. Women gathered children, warriors collected weapons, and elders moved to the central gathering area where Chief Nahale already stood, face grim with concentration. 6 riders, the lookout reported, moving slow, not attack formation. Takoda and Nita arrived breathless from their herb-gathering expedition. She immediately moved to her grandmother's side while Takoda positioned himself near the warriors, his posture alert but calm. Chief Nahale held a weathered smoke signal blanket, its once bright red and black geometric patterns faded from years of use. The thick wool covering had been traded from northern tribes decades ago, specially made with tightly woven fibers that could direct smoke signals with precision when manipulated properly. In desperate times, it had helped coordinate defense or evacuation between scattered Apache family groups. "We may need to send warning to the families at the summer camp," the chief said, his fingers running over the blanket's worn edge. "Makit, be ready." A young warrior nodded, understanding his role if signals became necessary. Kime stepped forward. "My father and I will meet them with 10 warriors. We show strength." "No," Takoda interjected. "Too aggressive, 2 men only, the chief and 1 other, show neither fear nor threat." Kime's face darkened. "You presume to give orders here. Outsider, I give counsel based on experience," Takoda replied evenly. Bluecoats read large warrior parties as hostile intent. A chief alone with trusted second shows confidence. The village elders exchanged glances, weighing his words. Chief Nahale studied Takoda carefully before nodding. "He speaks wisdom. I will go with Halaku." He nodded toward his most trusted advisor, an older warrior with silver-streaked hair. "Father," Nita spoke up, "let me accompany you as well." Surprised murmurs rippled through the gathering. Women rarely participated in such negotiations. "What purpose?" Kemi demanded. "The presence of a woman, especially a healer, signals peaceful intent," she explained, "and I speak some of their tongue from trading with settlers." Chief Nahale considered his daughter with newfound appreciation. "Wise counsel. You will come." As preparations continued, Takoda approached Nita privately. "Their leader will expect submission," he warned quietly. "Show respect, but never appear weak." "I know how to conduct myself with bluecoats," she replied, though his concern touched her. "These are not traders or settlers," Takoda cautioned. "Army men measure worth differently." Before she could respond, her grandmother joined them, the smoke signal blanket now folded over her arm. "You know these soldiers, warrior from Tonto Band?" the old woman asked directly. Takoda hesitated, awareness passing between them. "I have encountered their kind." The medicine woman's eyes narrowed. "And have they encountered you in ways they would remember?" A loaded question. Nita glanced between them, suddenly understanding Kime's accusations about Takoda's activities against the Bluecoats might hold truth. "They will see an Apache." "Nothing more," Takoda answered carefully. The old woman nodded, apparently satisfied. "Keep this close," she said, pressing the folded smoke signal blanket into Nita's hands. "If danger comes, 3 quick waves above your head. The lookouts will understand." The small delegation assembled at the village edge, Chief Nahale, his advisor Halaku, and Nita with the blanket draped casually over one arm. The rest of the tribe withdrew to positions of readiness, out of immediate sight, but prepared for trouble. Takoda caught Nita's eye once more before melting away with the other warriors. Something unspoken passed between them, concern, perhaps even fear, but also trust. The soldiers approached slowly, dust rising from their horses' hooves. Their blue uniforms stood in stark contrast to the desert landscape, foreign and unwelcome. The leader, a lieutenant by his insignia, raised his hand in greeting as they drew near. "We come in peace," he called out in halting Spanish. then attempted a few mangled Apache words. Chief Nahale remained impassive, allowing the silence to stretch uncomfortably before responding in his own language. Nita translated into the broken English she had learned from traders. "My father welcomes you to our land. He asks your purpose here." The lieutenant shifted in his saddle, clearly surprised to hear English from an Apache woman. "We're searching for renegades," he explained, his eyes moving assessingly over the visible portion of the village. "Warriors who attacked a supply wagon 2 days north. 3 soldiers dead." Nita translated for her father, whose expression remained neutral. She felt the weight of the smoke signal blanket on her arm, suddenly heavy with potential meaning. "My father says no attacks were made by our people. We live peacefully." The lieutenant dismounted, a gesture meant to appear non-threatening, but which brought his hand closer to his holstered pistol. "We need to search your camp. Orders." As Nita translated, she saw her father's jaw tighten, almost imperceptibly. Behind the soldiers, she caught a glimpse of movement, Takoda and several warriors positioning themselves out of sight. "My father invites you to speak further over water and shade," she offered, a traditional gesture of hospitality that would also draw the soldiers away from their current vantage point. The lieutenant hesitated, suspicion warring with the relentless desert heat. "Tell him we accept his hospitality, but my men remain mounted and ready." As they walked toward the central meeting area, Nita felt the lieutenant's eyes on her back. She clutched the smoke signal blanket tighter, wondering if she would need to give the emergency signal before this day ended. The fate of her village, and perhaps Takoda's life, might depend on what happened in the next few minutes. The Bluecoats had departed without incident, though their questions had left a shadow over the village. Their search for renegade Apaches responsible for attacking their supply wagons had yielded nothing, but their promise to return hung in the air like storm clouds. What troubled the village more was Lieutenant Foster's reaction upon seeing Takoda. Though Takoda had remained partially hidden among other warriors, the officer's eyes had narrowed in something like recognition before Nita's father skillfully diverted his attention. Now, 3 days later, the council fire burned low as voices rose in heated debate. "He brings the Bluecoats down upon us." Kema stood tall, gesturing emphatically toward Takoda. "They search for raiders. Look at him. Does he deny he is one of these raiders?" All eyes turned to Takoda, who sat calmly, hands resting on his knees. "I have defended my people against those who would destroy us. I make no apology for this." The gathered elders murmured among themselves. Chief Nahale raised his hand for silence. "The question is not what you have done elsewhere, but whether you have brought danger to this village." Before Takoda could respond, Kema strode to his dwelling and returned carrying an object wrapped in buckskin. With theatrical flourish, he unwrapped it, revealing a warrior's challenge coup stick, a slender rod of polished wood adorned with eagle feathers, porcupine quills, and intricate carvings. This particular stick had been used in the tribe for generations to issue formal challenges between warriors competing for honor or position. A hush fell over the gathering. The challenge stick was not presented lightly. "I challenge Takoda of the Tonto Band," Kema announced formally. "Let his worth be proven through the ancient tests before he speaks further of courting our chief's daughter." Nita, seated beside her grandmother, felt her chest tighten. The challenge was rarely refused without losing all honor. Chief Nahale frowned. "This is not necessary, Kema." "With respect, Chief Nahale, it is our way," Kema insisted. "A warrior from another band comes seeking your daughter's hand. The challenge is my right." The elders nodded in reluctant agreement. Tradition was clear on this matter. Takoda rose slowly. "I accept the challenge." His voice carried no anger, only resolution. Kema smiled thinly, holding out the challenge coup stick between them. 3 tests: strength, skill, and wisdom. Beginning at dawn tomorrow. Takoda grasped the other end of the stick, completing the formal acceptance. 3 tests. As the council dispersed, Nita hurried after Takoda as he walked toward his shelter at the village edge. "This is foolishness," she said, when they were beyond easy hearing of others. "Kema has been preparing for the warrior's challenge since boyhood. His father has won it 4 times. Takoda regarded her with quiet amusement. Are you concerned for me? I'm concerned for unnecessary bloodshed, she replied, though the flush in her cheeks suggested otherwise. The challenge rarely ends in death. Rarely is not never, she countered. Keme has much to prove. He will not show mercy. Takoda stopped walking, turning to face her fully. In the fading daylight his features seemed carved from stone, revealing nothing of his thoughts. Why does this trouble you, Nita? You've given no indication you welcome my intention. Perhaps Keme would make a better husband. The directness of his question caught her off guard. I did not say. You did not need to. He is of your band, known to you since childhood. A proven hunter and warrior. His eyes held hers. While I am a stranger who brings complication. Nita found herself unable to deny his words, yet equally unable to confirm them. The truth lay somewhere in the tangled space between duty and the inexplicable pull she felt toward this man. The challenge is our tradition, she finally said, but be warned, Keme will use every advantage. Takoda's expression softened slightly. I would expect nothing less from a man fighting for what he values. The simple statement hung between them, laden with meaning that neither was ready to fully acknowledge. Rest well then, Nita said, stepping back. Tomorrow will test you in ways you cannot anticipate. As she turned to leave, Takoda spoke once more. The day I pulled you from the river, I was not yet a warrior. I had never faced a challenge or counted coup in battle, but I did not hesitate to enter those waters. Nita paused, not turning back. What are you saying? That some tests come to us unbidden, revealing character more truly than any formal challenge. She continued walking, his words following her like shadows as darkness settled over the village. At dawn, the entire tribe gathered at the challenge grounds, a flat stretch of earth beyond the village, where generations of Apache warriors had proven their worth. Elders took their places on elevated seats, women and children formed a wide circle, and warriors stood ready to witness the ancient ritual. Keme arrived with 6 supporters, his body painted with red ochre symbols of strength and victory. The challenge coup stick was held by his father, a renowned warrior whose approval Keme had sought his entire life. Takoda came alone, wearing only simple buckskin leggings and a single eagle feather tied in his hair. His quiet confidence drew murmurs from the onlookers. Chief Nahele stood to address the gathering. Today we witness the warriors' challenge between Keme, son of Hanska, and Takoda, son of Ahate of the Tonto band. 3 tests will determine whose spirit stands tallest. As the chief explained the rules of the challenge, Nita watched Takoda from her place beside her grandmother. His face revealed nothing, but she sensed a focused intensity in his stillness that both reassured and unsettled her. The first rays of sunlight touched the challenge coup stick as it was placed upright in the center of the circle, marking the beginning of a contest that would determine far more than just warrior status in the eyes of the tribe. The challenge had proven more evenly matched than anyone anticipated. The first test, lifting and carrying stone weights across the challenge circle, had ended with Keme victorious by a narrow margin. His supporters had cheered wildly while Takoda accepted the outcome with dignified silence. The second test of skill archery at increasingly difficult targets had gone to Takoda, whose final arrow split a dangling eagle feather at 50 paces. Even Keme's father had nodded in grudging respect at the display. Now they prepared for the final test of wisdom and strategy, a complex game of calculation played with painted stones that represented warriors' terrain and resources. Few outside the tribe had ever witnessed this ancient contest that taught generations of Apache leaders to think beyond brute strength. The elders were setting up the sacred gaming stones, 52 perfectly rounded river rocks, each painted with symbols and arranged in precise patterns on a circular hide mat. Some stones bore images of warriors, others of mountains or water sources, while still others represented enemies, weather or spirit guides. The intricate game served not only as a test, but as training for war chiefs in strategic thinking. Nita watched as her father explained the rules to Takoda. The outsider listened intent, his eyes studying the pattern with focused intelligence. Across from him, Kame projected confidence, having played this game since childhood under his father's tutelage. As they took their positions on either side of the gaming mat, a distant whistle pierced the morning air, 3 sharp notes followed by 2 long ones. The tribal danger signal. Every head turned toward the hills where a lookout stood, frantically waving a red cloth. Chief Nahale immediately raised his hand, halting the challenge. "Warriors, prepare," he commanded, his voice cutting through the sudden tension. "Women and children to the shelter caves." The gathering dissolved into purposeful motion. Keme and Takoda both rose from the gaming mat, their rivalry instantly set aside in the face of common threat. "Riders coming fast from the east," reported a breathless scout running into the circle. "Blue coats, many of them, not like before. These come with weapons ready." Chief Nahale turned to Takoda. "You know their ways in battle. Speak quickly." Without hesitation, Takoda pointed to the narrow pass that served as the main approach to the village. "They will come through there expecting to surprise us. We must position warriors on both ridges." His fingers traced positions in the dirt. "If they follow their usual formation, their flanks will be exposed here and here." Keme's father stepped forward. "Why should we trust battle advice from one who might have brought this trouble upon us?" "Because he speaks truth," interrupted a new voice. Approaching from the village cache came Quiet Fox, an elder so ancient few remembered his youth. In his gnarled hands he carried an object wrapped in ceremonial buckskin, the war leader's scrying stone. A respectful hush fell over the gathered warriors. The scrying stone was rarely seen, used only in times of greatest danger. Smooth and black as night, with veins of white quartz forming natural patterns across its surface, the stone was said to reveal the hidden movements of enemies to those with the wisdom to read its messages. Quiet Fox carefully unwrapped the stone, holding it up to catch the morning light. The quartz veins gleamed, casting reflections that danced across the ground. "I have watched the stone since the Bluecoats first came," the Ancient One declared. "It shows them returning with greater numbers, just as this Tonto warrior predicted," his rheumy eyes fixed on Takoda. "The stone also shows a warrior standing between our people and destruction, one who knows both our ways and the enemy's thinking." Chief Nahale studied Takoda with new intensity. "Will you stand with us in battle, though this is not your band?" "I will," Takoda replied, without hesitation. Kemia stepped forward. "As will I at his side if necessary." The concession clearly cost him, but the genuine nod he offered Takoda spoke of a warrior's pragmatism in the face of greater threats. "Prepare the defenses," Chief Nahale ordered. "Takoda and Kemia will coordinate our warriors. Nita, go with the women and children to the caves." "Father, the wounded will need me," she protested. After a moment's consideration, the chief nodded. "Stay with your grandmother at the rear position. Be ready to treat injuries." As the warriors dispersed to their assignments, Nita found herself briefly alone with Takoda, near her family's wickiup. "They come because of you, don't they?" she asked quietly. Takoda met her gaze unflinchingly. "Perhaps. The lieutenant may have recognized me, or they may simply return to search more thoroughly. And if they demand we surrender you..." His eyes never left hers. "Would you have me surrender?" The question struck deeper than she expected. Before she could form an answer, Kemi approached, carrying extra arrows and a war club. "The lookout reports they will reach the pass within the hour," he informed them, handing Takoda a bow. Their eyes met in a moment of understanding. Whatever lay between them regarding Nita would wait. Today they fought as brothers. As Takoda turned to join the other warriors, Nita caught his arm. "Return safely," she said simply, surprising herself with the depth of feeling behind the words. A rare smile touched his lips. "I made a promise by a river once. I intend to keep it fully." She watched him stride away with Kame, 2 rivals united by a greater purpose. Behind her, Quiet Fox cradled the war leader's scrying stone, its patterns shifting in ways only he could interpret. "The stone shows blood before sunset," the old man murmured, "but it does not show whose blood will flow." The bluecoats halted at the mouth of the canyon, clearly surprised to find Apache warriors visibly positioned on both ridges. Whatever advantage of surprise they had hoped for was lost. Lieutenant Foster raised a white flag, a signal for parley that contradicted their battle-ready approach. From his hidden position among the rocks, Takoda studied the soldiers through narrowed eyes. 20 men, well-armed but uneasy in the narrow confines of the canyon, where Apache warriors held the high ground. A tactical stalemate. "They seek to talk now that they see our position," Kemi observed from beside him. Takoda nodded. "A wise choice on their part." Chief Nahale joined them, his expression grave. "What game do they play? They come armed for war, then call for peace talk. They did not expect us to be prepared," Takoda explained. "Now they reassess." After brief council, Chief Nahale decided to meet the lieutenant under truce conditions. Takoda advised caution. "Let me accompany you as translator," he suggested. "I understand not just their words, but their thinking." The chief studied him. "If they recognize you as an enemy, then we will know their true purpose here." Kemi frowned. "It could be a trap to capture him. Then you and the warriors will ensure they do not leave this canyon," Chief Nahale replied grimly. As they prepared to the medicine woman approached, carrying a small object wrapped in soft deerskin. She pressed it into Nahale's hands. "Take the spirit collar flute," she instructed. "It will ensure your words reach not just their ears, but their hearts." The chief unwrapped the object, reverently, a slender wooden flute, carved from lightning-struck pine, adorned with feathers and intricate symbols. Not played for music but used in sacred ceremonies, it was believed to summon ancestral spirits and lend power to spoken words. Its voice had not been heard in the valley for many seasons. "The spirits favor truth today," the old woman added, her eyes lingering on Takoda. Chief Nahale re-wrapped the precious flute and tucked it into his belt. With a nod to Takoda, they began their descent toward the waiting soldiers, 4 warriors following at a respectful distance. Lieutenant Foster removed his hat as they approached, a gesture of respect, though his hand remained near his holstered pistol. "Chief Nahale," he greeted in halting Spanish. "We come seeking peaceful resolution." Takoda translated the words into Apache, then responded in surprisingly fluent English. "Chief Nahale asks why you approach his village with weapons drawn if peace is your purpose." The lieutenant's eyes widened slightly at Takoda's command of English, studying him with growing suspicion. "We received reports of hostiles in this area," Foster explained. "Raiders who have attacked supply wagons and killed soldiers." Takoda translated faithfully, watching the lieutenant's face. "The chief says his people have committed no such acts. They live in peace." Foster's gaze remained fixed on Takoda. "You speak our language well for one who lives so far from settlements." "I have traded with your people," Takoda replied evenly. "Have you indeed?" The lieutenant's hand moved slightly closer to his weapon. "Strange, because you resemble the description of a renegade who's been causing trouble north of here. One who speaks English and knows army tactics." The tension thickened. Behind them the Apache warriors shifted position. Arrows nocked but not yet drawn. Chief Nahale, sensing the dangerous turn, removed the spirit collar flute from his belt. Foster eyed it warily. "A peace offering?" he asked. "No," Takoda translated as the chief spoke. "A reminder of who we are. This flute carries the voices of our ancestors. They watch us now, Lieutenant. They will witness whether you bring war or peace to people who have done no wrong." The chief raised the flute to his lips and blew a single soft note, not a musical sound, but a low, haunting tone that seemed to vibrate through the canyon. The soldiers shifted uncomfortably, several making warding gestures against what they perceived as pagan magic. The lieutenant hesitated, clearly torn between his suspicions and the precarious tactical situation. We must search your village, he finally stated. Those are our orders. Takoda translated, then conveyed the chief's reply. You may send 4 men unarmed to walk through our village with me. The rest must remain here. Unarmed? Impossible. Then there is no agreement, Takoda replied. And your men remain trapped in this canyon. Foster's face reddened. That sounds like a threat. An observation, Takoda corrected calmly. Look around you, Lieutenant. Foster surveyed the warriors positioned on both ridges, then the narrow canyon behind him. A frontal assault would be costly, perhaps disastrous. 2 men, with sidearms only, he counted. Chief Nahale considered, then nodded once. Agreed, Takoda translated. You and 1 other may accompany the chief. Your main force remains here under truce protection. As arrangements were finalized, Foster stepped closer to Takoda. I know I've seen you before, he said quietly, and when I remember where, there will be a reckoning. Takoda's expression remained impassive. Perhaps you confuse me with another. We look alike to your kind. The lieutenant's eyes narrowed at the subtle barb. We'll see. As they prepared to escort Foster to the village, Chief Nahale placed the spirit collar flute back in his belt. Its purpose served for now. The ancestors had been called to witness, and for the moment, blood would not flow in the canyon, but in the lieutenant's suspicious glances toward Takoda lay the seeds of a confrontation merely postponed, not prevented. The village exhaled collectively as the bluecoats finally departed. Lieutenant Foster had conducted his inspection with thinly veiled hostility, finding nothing to justify further action, but promising to return if there was any hint of renegade activity. His eyes had lingered on Takoda with dangerous recognition, though he'd stopped short of making direct accusations. Now, as twilight painted the desert in purple shadows, the tribal council gathered in grim assembly. At the center of their circle lay a rawhide bundle that had been discovered hidden beneath Takoda's sleeping furs during the soldiers' search, revealed not by the bluecoats, but by Kame, who had entered Takoda's shelter to ensure nothing incriminating remained before the soldiers arrived. Chief Nahale unwrapped the bundle slowly, revealing the blood memory bandolier, a leather strap adorned with 12 brass buttons, each one taken from the uniform of a dead soldier. Such trophies were kept by warriors in some Apache bands, each button representing an enemy defeated in battle. This particular bandolier was unusual for the careful arrangement of the buttons and the precise notches carved beneath each one, recording details of the encounters. A heavy silence fell over the gathering. Even those who had suspected Takoda's activities seemed shocked by the physical evidence. 12, Kame's father muttered. 12 bluecoats. Takoda sat straight back before the council, neither denying ownership nor showing shame. They came to our lands, they burned our camps, they killed our people, and now they come here, looking for you, Kame accused, standing behind his father. Nita watched from her place beside her grandmother, her heart constricted with conflicting emotions. The bandolier represented everything the village feared. Direct confrontation with the army that could only end in destruction for her people. Did you attack the supply wagon they spoke of? Chief Nahale asked directly. No, Takoda answered. That was not my doing. But you have attacked others before it. Takoda met the chief's gaze. Yes, when they threatened my band, when they killed my father and burned our winter camp. His voice remained level. I count coup as our warriors have always done. The medicine woman leaned forward. Yet you came here knowing they hunt you. Why endanger our people for your blood feud? I came to fulfill my promise, Takoda replied, his eyes briefly finding Nita's. I did not believe they would track me this far south. A foolish mistake for a war leader. Kame's father spat. Or the action of a man who values his word above his safety, countered the medicine woman, unexpectedly. Chief Nahale held up the blood memory bandolier. This speaks of a warrior committed to revenge. Is that what drives you, Takoda? Blood for blood until none remain on either side. Justice drove me, Takoda replied, and protection of my people, and now, the chief pressed. A moment of silence stretched as Takoda seemed to weigh his response. Now I seek a different path. Kemi laughed bitterly. Convenient, when the bluecoats close in around you. Nita had no answer. She rolled the destiny stone between her palms, feeling its cool smoothness. The question is not what path he walked before, the old woman continued, but what path he walks now, and whether your paths are meant to join. And if they are, the tribe may reject him. Kemi and his father certainly will. Since when does Nita, who walked alone gathering medicines when other girls played with dolls, concern herself with others' approval? A rare smile creased the medicine woman's face. You have always followed your own vision. The simple truth of this observation settled over Nita like a warm blanket. She closed her fingers around the destiny stone, its presence reassuring in her palm. I must speak with him, she decided. Her grandmother nodded. Words unspoken are like seeds unplanted. They cannot grow. With renewed purpose, Nita returned to the village, the destiny stone tucked safely in her medicine pouch. She found Kemi outside his father's lodge, sharpening arrowheads with methodical precision. I would speak with Takoda, she stated without preamble. Kemi's hands paused in their work. My father left strict instructions. No one speaks with him, except council members. I am the chief's daughter and medicine woman's apprentice, Nita replied. I am no threat to him or our security. It is not our security I worry about, Kemi said, rising to face her. It is you. This man has blinded you with his river rescue story. You do not see the danger he represents. I see more clearly than you think. Something in her tone made Kemi study her more carefully. You care for him, he said, realization dawning in his eyes. Despite everything, the bandolier, the bluecoats hunting him, you would still choose him. Nita met his gaze steadily. I choose to hear his words directly, not filtered through others' fears. And my words, do they mean nothing to you now? There was genuine hurt beneath his challenge. Your words have always held meaning, Kemi. We grew up together. But my path is your own. Yes, you have made that clear many times. Bitterness edged his voice. Go then, speak with your warrior, but know that my father returns soon, and he will not be as permissive. Kemi signaled to the guard, who reluctantly stepped aside from the lodge entrance. With a nod of thanks, Nita ducked through the low doorway. Inside, Takoda sat cross-legged on a woven mat, his back straight despite his confinement. Sunlight filtering through smoke holes illuminated his face, highlighting the strength in his features and the calm in his eyes. I did not expect visitors, he said quietly. Nita settled across from him, maintaining proper distance. The council delays its decision until after the blessing moon ceremony. And you? Have you made your decision? His direct question caught her off guard. About what? About whether the boy who saved you from the river is worth saving in return. She felt the weight of the destiny stone in her pouch. That depends on whether he still exists within the man before me. Takoda held her gaze. He does, though life has changed him in ways he sometimes regrets. Those 12 buttons on the bandolier, each one taken in defense of my people, not in blind hatred, he interrupted gently. Though I cannot claim my heart was always pure in the taking. Nita nodded, understanding the complex truth in his words. And now, what does your heart seek now? Peace, he answered, without hesitation. A different kind of strength than what comes from war. Outside, voices approached, Kemi's father returning with other warriors. Their time was ending. The blessing moon ceremony, she said quickly. If you participate and the spirits accept your presence, it would speak loudly to the council. A spark of hope flickered in Takoda's eyes. Would your father permit it? I will ask him. Nita rose to leave, then paused. Takoda, the promise you made by the river. Tell me again what you said. His expression softened with memory. I said, when we are grown, I will return for you, Waterflower. Our spirits are joined from this day. Waterflower, Your face, surrounded by river water, like a flower floating on the surface. A faint smile touched his lips. The name came without thought. Something inside Nita shifted, a recognition that felt both new and ancient. Without another word, she slipped from the lodge, the destiny stone warming against her skin, as if affirming the path now clear before her. The blessing moon ceremony was to begin at sunset. Throughout the day, the village prepared, setting up the sacred circle, gathering special herbs for purification, readying traditional foods for the feast that would follow. Chief Nahali had granted Nita's request, allowing Takoda to participate under guard. It was a significant concession that offered hope for his eventual acceptance. By mid-afternoon, Nita worked with her grandmother, preparing medicine bundles for the ceremony. Their fingers moved with practiced precision, wrapping sage, cedar, and tobacco in small squares of buckskin. A commotion at the village perimeter drew their attention. A young warrior sprinted toward the chief's wickiup, face tight with urgency. Within moments, alarm calls echoed through the encampment. Bluecoats coming. Many riders. Nita dropped her work and rushed outside. Warriors were already gathering weapons, women hurrying children toward the escape paths that led to hidden caves in the hills behind the village. Chief Nahali emerged from his dwelling, his face grave. "How many?" he demanded of the scout. 30, maybe more. With a wagon. "They come fast, weapons ready." The chief's eyes narrowed. No parley this time. Takoda approached, flanked by his guards, who now looked to him with uncertainty rather than suspicion. "Let me see their approach," he requested. After a moment's hesitation, the chief nodded. They moved swiftly to a high point that overlooked the main trail. In the distance, dust rose from galloping horses. Even from afar, the grim purpose in their formation was evident. This was no search party, but a force intent on action. "They mean to surround the village," Takoda observed grimly. "The wagon likely carries chains for prisoners." Chief Nahali's face hardened. How did they know to return with such force so quickly? A terrible suspicion formed in Nita's mind. She remembered Kime's bitterness, his absence since early morning, when he claimed to be hunting. Could he have? No, surely even his jealousy would not extend to endangering the entire village. As the warriors organized their defense, Nita's grandmother appeared, clutching something wrapped in ceremonial cloth. Her wizened face was drawn with concern. "The false peace wampum," she said, unwrapping a beaded belt with intricate purple and white patterns. "It was missing from the medicine lodge. I found it discarded near the south trail." Murmurs of dismay spread among the elders. The ceremonial belt, made generations ago during a failed peace attempt with enemy tribes, was kept as a reminder of treachery. Its patterns told the story of peace promised, but betrayal delivered. A warning from ancestors about trusting too easily. "Someone has betrayed us to the Bluecoats," the medicine woman declared, her voice carrying despite its age-thinned quality. "The wampum warns us." Chief Nahali surveyed his people. "Who is missing from the village?" A woman stepped forward hesitantly. "Keme left before dawn. He said he was scouting the North Hills, and his father, gone since yesterday to trade with the river band." The implications hung heavy in the air. Takoda's face revealed nothing, though surely he must have suspected Keme's hand in this. "We have little time," he said instead, focusing on the immediate threat. "The women, children and elders must take the hidden paths to the high caves. Warriors should split, half to cover their escape, half to delay the soldiers here." Chief Nahali nodded in agreement. "Prepare for evacuation. Take only what can be carried quickly." As the village erupted into urgent activity, Nita approached her father. "I will stay with the warriors. The wounded will need me." "No," he countered firmly. "You go with your grandmother. Your healing skills will be needed with the children and elders if we must remain hidden for days." "Father, this is not a request, daughter. Our people's medicine knowledge must survive even if—" He stopped himself, but the unspoken possibility hung between them. Takoda stepped forward. "Chief Nahale, I must speak." The chief turned to him expectantly. "This attack comes because of me. Let me surrender myself. Perhaps they will spare the village if they have what they truly seek." Nahale studied him thoughtfully. "You would give yourself to the Bluecoat. Their justice is not known for mercy." "I would give my life for your people's safety," Takoda replied steadily. "For her safety," he added, glancing at Nita. Before the chief could respond, a sharp cry came from the lookout. "They've divided their forces. Some approach from the south path." The soldiers had split their attack, cutting off the primary escape route. Somehow they knew the village layout too well for it to be coincidence. "Kempi," Nita whispered. The betrayal finally undeniable. "He told them everything." Her father's expression confirmed her suspicion. "Gather what medicines you can carry," he ordered her. "We use the western path now." As Nita hurried to collect essential supplies, she passed the false peace wampum still in her grandmother's hands. The beaded pattern seemed to shimmer with terrible prescience, the white beads of promised peace overwhelmed by the purple beads of coming violence. Takoda caught up to her at her dwelling. "Nita," he said urgently. "If we are separated, we won't be," she interrupted, surprising herself with her certainty. "If we are," he insisted, "remember that my promise remains, in this life or the next." The intensity in his eyes burned away any remaining doubts in her heart. Without concern for who might see, she pressed her palm to his cheek in a gesture of deep affection. "No separation," she repeated firmly. "Our spirits are joined, water warrior." A rare smile touched his lips at her use of a name she had created for him. In that moment, an echo of the one he had given her long ago. The moment shattered as gunfire erupted at the village edge. The Bluecoats had arrived, and with them the consequences of betrayal. 3 days had passed since the attack. Most of the village had escaped into the high canyon country, where ancient ones had carved dwellings into cliff walls invisible from below. Only 5 warriors had been wounded in the fighting, and 1 elder had died, not from bullets but from the strain of the swift evacuation. But Takoda had been taken. Against Chief Nahale's orders, he had created a diversion, drawing the soldiers' attention while the last of the villagers escaped. Nita had watched in horror from a high ridge as he was finally surrounded, fighting until overwhelmed by sheer number. The soldiers had bound him and thrown him into their wagon like captured prey. Now, in the dim light of a cave hidden high in the canyon wall, Nita unfolded the shadow-walking map, a piece of thin, smoke-cured deerskin marked with natural dyes in patterns incomprehensible to outsiders. Handed down through generations of Apache scouts, it showed secret paths, hidden water sources, and safe approaches to known military positions throughout the territory. The map had been entrusted to her father by a dying scout from a neighboring band 3 summers ago, with instructions to use it only in greatest need. "He is likely at Fort Whipple," Chief Nahale said, studying the map alongside her. 2 days' hard ride from here. 3 soldiers were injured in his capture, added Helaku, the chief's advisor. "They will move slower, stopping at Morgan Creek Outpost first." Nita's finger traced the faint line that represented a hidden approach to the outpost. "There are only 10 soldiers stationed there, according to our traders. If we could reach it before they transfer him to the fort." "Daughter," her father said gently, "I understand your heart, but we must think of the whole tribe. The risk is too great, and leaving him to hang is acceptable." The words escaped before she could temper them. The chief's expression remained compassionate, despite her tone. He chose his path when he created the diversion. It was a warrior's choice, made freely. "A choice forced by Kemi's betrayal," she countered. "Does our tribe abandon those who sacrifice for us?" The question hung in the air, unanswerable. Kemi had not returned to the hidden camps, confirming his treachery beyond doubt. Her grandmother, who had been listening silently, spoke up. "The map shows what is possible, not what must be done." Nita carefully refolded the precious deerskin. "Then I will go alone." "You will not," her father stated firmly. I forbid it, father. Nita. His tone softened. Your skills as a healer are needed here, and a single person, especially a woman alone, would never succeed. She wanted to argue further, but knew the truth in his words. Frustration burned in her chest as she left the council cave, climbing higher into the rocks where she could be alone with her thoughts. The moon rose full and bright over the desert below, the same blessing moon that should have witnessed the ceremony, that might have joined her path with Takoda's. Now it illuminated empty land, the village abandoned, Takoda imprisoned, and their future severed by betrayal and circumstance. His spirit is strong, came her grandmother's voice as the old woman laboriously climbed to join her. He will not break easily, but he is alone, Nita replied, not bothering to hide the ache in her voice. Perhaps not as alone as you think. The medicine woman settled beside her with a soft grunt. 4 warriors disappeared from our camp after nightfall yesterday. Nita turned to her grandmother in surprise. Father said nothing of this. Your father does not know everything that happens among our people. A hint of amusement colored the old woman's tone. Young Muck and 3 others, all friends of Takoda from the hunting parties. They took weapons and 3 days' food. Hope flared in Nita's heart. They've gone after him. Her grandmother nodded. They spoke to me before leaving. I gave them medicines and guidance. What guidance? To wait for the one who knows healing, who might be following. The old woman's eyes held meaning beyond her words. A rescue party may need someone who can tend wounds, both those of the body and of the spirit. Understanding dawned slowly. You want me to go? Want? Her grandmother chuckled softly. No, but I have seen what must be. The blessing moon reveals paths, hidden by day. From within her medicine pouch, the old woman withdrew a small object wrapped in soft rabbit fur. She placed it in Nita's palm. A warrior's turquoise, a smooth blue-green stone worn by Apache fighters for protection and clear thinking in battle. This particular stone was ancient, its surface bearing the natural pattern of a lightning bolt across its face. My grandfather carried this through many battles, the medicine woman explained. It turned arrows and drew strength from the sky powers. Nita stared at the precious stone. Grandmother, I cannot take this. You must. Where you go, its protection will be needed. The old woman closed Nita's fingers around the turquoise. Mac and the others will have reached the ridge camp by now. With a good horse you could join them by tomorrow's sunset. Father will never permit it. Then do not ask permission. Her grandmother's eyes twinkled with unexpected mischief. Sometimes the spirits open paths that elders cannot see. Nita's mind raced with sudden possibility. The shadow walking map is poorly guarded while the council discusses winter preparations. Her grandmother finished with a meaningful nod. You would help me defy father? Nita asked, astonished. The old woman's face grew serious. I help you follow the path the spirits have shown. The man called Water Warrior is important, not just to your heart, but to our people's future. I have seen this in the smoke visions. With new resolve, Nita clutched the warrior's turquoise. I will need medicines, food, a weapon. Already gathered in my dwelling. Her grandmother smiled at Nita's surprise. Did you think an old medicine woman loses her ability to plan merely because her legs grow weak? For the first time in days, Nita felt something beyond despair. She leaned forward to embrace her grandmother gently. Thank you for seeing what I had not say. Go carefully, granddaughter, the old woman whispered. The path ahead holds both shadow and light. Trust the turquoise to guide you between them. As the blessing moon climbed higher, Nita's determination solidified into purpose. By dawn she would be gone, following both the map's secret paths and the deeper trail marked by her heart. Morgan Creek Outpost rose from the desert like a scar, a square wooden stockade surrounding a cluster of low buildings, its presence an affront to the natural landscape. From her position on a rocky ridge overlooking the approach road, Nita studied the soldiers' movements through the gathering dusk. She had caught up with Mark and the other warriors the previous day, her arrival causing initial surprise that quickly gave way to acceptance. They recognized the value of having a healer with them, and none questioned her right to participate in Takoda's rescue. 2 guards at the gate, Marka reported, crawling back from his closer reconnaissance. 4 more patrol the walls. The prisoner wagon arrived this morning. "Have you seen Takoda?" Nita asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Markak nodded grimly. "They keep him in the small building behind the main house. His hands and feet are bound. He has been beaten, but he lives." The knowledge that he suffered tightened her chest with anger and fear. And inside the stockade, perhaps 20 soldiers total. Half are new arrivals who brought Takoda. They drink and celebrate his capture tonight. Nita reached into her medicine pouch and withdrew the night whisper owl, a small, intricately carved figure of black obsidian, no larger than her palm. The owl's eyes were inlaid with tiny chips of mica that caught any available light, giving the impression of watchfulness even in darkness. Her grandmother had pressed it into her hands just before her departure. For moving unseen, the old woman had explained. The owl flies silently, invisible against the night sky. Keep it close when stealth matters more than strength. Now, as evening shadows lengthened, Nita cupped the obsidian owl between her palms, feeling its cool weight as a reminder of what lay ahead. This would be no frontal attack, but a mission of shadows and wisp. "We move when the drinking songs begin," she decided, her tone leaving no room for debate despite her youth and gender. Something had shifted within her during the journey, a certainty of purpose that commanded respect from the young warriors. Mac nodded agreement. "The guard changes at full dark. There will be moments of confusion we can use." They waited as night claimed the land, the temperature dropping quickly as desert heat surrendered to starlight. From the outpost came the sounds of men's voices, growing louder and less disciplined as liquor flowed. "Now," Nita whispered when a particularly raucous chorus erupted. They moved like shadows down the rocky slope, 4 warriors and a medicine woman, transformed into spirits of vengeance. The night whisper owl seemed to grow heavier against Nita's skin, its presence a talisman against discovery. At the stockade's blind corner where the sentry walk was obscured from other guards' positions, they paused. Makshak produced a rope with a wooden hook, fashioned during their journey specifically for scaling the wall. With practiced skill he swung it upward, the hook catching silently on the walkway above. "I go first," Nita stated, surprising them. "I am lightest." Before they could protest, she was climbing, her movements fluid and silent as the owl she carried. Reaching the top, she flattened herself against the rough planking, heart-pounding, as a guard passed less than 20 paces away, his attention focused outward rather than behind him. One by one, the warriors joined her. Using hand signals, Makshak indicated their path across the compound, a route that utilized shadows and blind spots in the guards' positions. They descended into the stockade using the same rope, now in the most dangerous phase of their mission. Discovery here would mean certain death, with walls on all sides and armed men everywhere. Nita clutched the night whisper owl as they crept between buildings, its obsidian coolness somehow steadying her racing pulse. A burst of laughter from the main building covered their movement as they reached the small structure where Takoda was held. A single guard stood at the door, his posture relaxed, rifle held loosely. Clearly he expected no threat inside the security of the outpost. Makshak moved with lethal efficiency, a swift approach from behind, one hand clamping over the man's mouth, while the other drove a knife upward. The guard collapsed without a sound, lowered gently to the ground. Nita forced herself to look away from the dead soldier, focusing instead on the door he had guarded. Locked as expected. "Stand ready," she whispered to the warriors as she removed small pouches from her medicine bag. Working quickly, she mixed powders her grandmother had prepared, herbs that, when burned, created a smoke that induced deep sleep. She packed the mixture into the crack beneath the door, then used flint to ignite it. Holding her own breath, she waited until thin wisps of smoke disappeared into the room beyond. If anyone is inside with him, they will sleep now, she explained. Marek nodded approval at her foresight, then set to work on the lock with a thin metal tool. The mechanism yielded with a soft click that sounded thunderous to Nita's heightened senses. The door swung open to reveal a single room, dimly lit by a small lantern. Takoda lay on his side against the far wall, hands and feet bound with heavy rope, his face bruised and swollen. No guards were inside, fortunate, as it meant no witnesses to overcome. His eyes widened in disbelief as he recognized Nita. "You should not be here," he whispered hoarsely. "Be silent," she responded, kneeling swiftly beside him. The night whisper owl pressed against her skin as she bent to examine his bonds. "Save strength for escape." Mac's shot cut through Takoda's restraints while Nita quickly assessed his injuries. Bruised ribs, a swollen eye, split lip, painful but not life-threatening. More concerning was his obvious weakness from what appeared to be days without food or water. "Can you walk?" she asked. "For you, I would crawl through fire," he replied, the ghost of a smile touching his battered face. Mac's shock helped Takoda to his feet, while the other warriors kept watch at the door. The rescue had gone perfectly so far, too perfectly, stirring Nita's sense of caution. "Something is wrong," she whispered. "This is too easy." As if summoned by her words, shouts erupted from the direction of the main building. The celebration had ended, and with it, their window of opportunity. "They found the dead guard," one of the warriors hissed from the doorway. "We need a diversion," Mac Shock decided, already reaching for his weapons. Nita's hand closed around the night whisper owl, its presence suddenly inspiring. "No, we need darkness." From her medicine pouch, she withdrew the remaining packets of her grandmother's powders. "Get ready to move fast," she instructed, then slipped outside before they could stop her. With silent prayers to the spirits of night and shadow, Nita darted toward the nearest storage shed. The obsidian owl seemed to guide her movements, helping her find patches of darkness where soldiers' eyes would slide past without seeing. Dawn found them deep in the rugged canyon country, miles from any trail a horse could follow. Nita's diversion, setting fire to the outpost's ammunition store, had created chaos beyond their expectations. The resulting explosion had destroyed half the stockade wall, allowing their escape in the confusion. But freedom had come at a cost. One of their warriors, young Ahanu, had taken a bullet in the shoulder during their flight. More concerning was Takoda's condition. The brutal treatment at the soldiers' hands, combined with the punishing pace of their escape, had exhausted his reserve. He pushed forward through sheer will, refusing to become a burden, but Nita saw the pain etched in every line of his face. "We rest here," she decided as they reached a sheltered overhang beside a small spring, one of the hidden water sources marked on the shadow walking map. "The horses cannot continue, and neither can we," no one argued. Even Makik, whose stoic determination had driven them through the night, nodded in weary agreement. As the others secured their position, Nita tended to Ahanu's wound, cleaning and binding it with herbs that would fight the fever already beginning to flush his skin. Then she turned her attention to Takoda, who sat with his back against the canyon wall, eyes closed in exhaustion. From her medicine pouch, she removed the ancient healing stones, 3 smooth river rocks of different colors that had been passed down through generations of medicine women in her family, one black as night, one red as blood, and one white as bone. Each stone had been collected by an ancestor from a sacred place and imbued with specific healing properties through ceremonies known only to those initiated into the deepest healing traditions. "These will help restore your strength," she explained, arranging the stones in a specific pattern on the ground beside him. "The black stone draws out pain, the red restores blood, vigor, and the white mends damaged spirit paths." Takoda watched through half-lidded eyes as she worked. "Your grandmother taught you well." "She did." Nita crushed herbs into a small wooden cup, adding water from the spring. "Though she would say I rushed my learning, always impatient for the next secret." A ghost of a smile touched his swollen lips. Impatient, you? The gentle teasing surprised her. Even beaten and exhausted, his spirit remained unbroken. She helped him drink the medicine, then placed the black healing stone against the worst of his bruised ribs, securing it with a strip of cloth. They will follow us, Matic said, approaching after checking their back trail. The lieutenant was not among the dead or wounded. He will come for Takoda with every man he can gather. Let him come, Takoda replied, his voice stronger than it had been. This country favors those who know its secrets, not those who march in straight lines. Nita placed the red stone in a small pouch that she hung around Takoda's neck. This stays with you while you sleep. It will help restore what was taken. He caught her hand as she withdrew, his fingers surprisingly warm despite his condition. Thank you, Waterflower. The name sent warmth through her that had nothing to do with the desert heat. Rest now, she instructed, gently freeing her hand. We have far to travel when the sun sets. While the others slept through the brutal heat of midday, Nita remained watchful, the white healing stone clutched in her palm. Her grandmother had taught her that healing involved more than herbs and bandages. It required the healer to absorb some of the patient's burden. The white stone facilitated this exchange, allowing her to take some of Takoda's exhaustion into herself while transferring her strength to him. By late afternoon, Takoda's breathing had deepened and steadied, the worst of his fever broke. Ahanu, too, showed improvement, though the bullet wound would need weeks to fully heal. You should rest now, Makak told her as the shadows lengthened. We will need your strength for the journey ahead. Nita nodded, suddenly aware of the bone-deep weariness that had settled into her limbs, partly from the healing exchange, partly from the past days of intense activity. She settled beside Takoda, not touching but close enough to feel the reassurance of his presence. As sleep began to claim her, she heard him murmur, "The first time I saved you from death," he said softly. "Now you have repaid that debt. There is no debt between us," she replied, her voice thick with approaching sleep. "Only a circle." "A circle," he repeated thoughtfully. "Like your healing stones." "Yes, each with its purpose, each connected to the others." His hand found hers in the growing darkness, a touch as light as a feather, yet somehow anchoring her to the earth. "Sleep, brave one. I watch over you now." When Nita woke, stars filled the sky and the others were already preparing to move. Takoda stood among them, still favoring his injured side, but remarkably improved. The ancient healing stones had done their work well. "The Bluecoats have split into search parties," Mac reported. "They cover the main canyons and trails back to our territory." Nita retrieved the shadow walking map from her pouch, studying it in the faint starlight. "Then we take no known path," she decided. "Here, this route through 3 Spirit Peaks. It is longer, but passes near no water source. A Bluecoat would know." Takoda examined the proposed route. "That crosses Paiute hunting grounds. The Paiute have no quarrel with us this season," Mac said, "and they hate the Bluecoats more than they distrust other Apache." The decision made, they set off into the night, moving silently through terrain few white men had ever seen. The ancient healing stones remained with those who needed them most. The black stone still bound to Takoda's ribs, the red stone around Ahanu's neck, and the white stone clutched in Nita's hand, a connection to the healing energy that flowed through all living things. 3 days later, having evaded multiple search parties through knowledge of hidden paths and careful movement, they reached the high ridge that overlooked the canyon where their people had taken refuge. "Home," Ahanu whispered, the simple word carrying all their exhaustion and relief. Nita looked to Takoda, whose eyes reflected the same question in her heart. With the tribe's future uncertain and enemies still searching, could any place truly be called home? As if reading her thoughts, he reached for her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. The ancient healing stone seemed to warm at the contact, white and black energies flowing together in perfect balance. "Home is not a place," he said softly. It is where our circle remains unbroken. Their return to the hidden canyon camp brought reactions that shifted from initial joy to wary concern. While warriors greeted Mac and his companions with embraces, celebrating the rescue few had thought possible, the elders watched with more measured expression. Chief Nahele's face revealed both relief at his daughter's safe return and displeasure at her disobedience. "You defied my direct order," he said when they spoke privately in his temporary dwelling. "You risked your life and the future of our medicine knowledge." "I followed a different path," Nita replied, standing tall despite her exhaustion. "One that the spirits revealed as necessary." "The spirits?" His eyebrow raised skeptically. "Or your own heart? Both speak with the same voice, father." Grandmother understood this. At the mention of the medicine woman, Chief Nahele's expression softened slightly. "She claims no knowledge of your departure, though her eyes tell a different story." A ghost of a smile touched Nita's lips. "She has taught me many things." The chief studied his daughter with new eyes, seeing not the child he sought to protect, but a woman grown into her power. "The council must decide what to do about Takoda," he said finally. "The Bluecoats will not stop hunting him, or us. If they believe we harbor him, then let them face the council's judgment together," Nita suggested, her voice steady. "Takoda and I," understanding dawned in her father's eyes. "You wish to formalize your bond with him." The chief was silent for a long moment, weighing tradition against the unprecedented situation they faced. "It is not the usual way," he finally said. "His band is not ours. The proper exchanges have not been made. Nothing about our path has followed the usual way, father. Why should this be different?" That evening the tribal council gathered to hear Takoda speak. Though still bearing the marks of his imprisonment, he stood straight and proud before them, recounting both his actions against the Bluecoats and his willingness to surrender himself rather than bring danger to the tribe. Nita watched from beside her grandmother, heart swelling with pride at his dignity and honesty. He concealed nothing, not even the satisfaction he had taken in avenging his father's death. When he finished speaking, silence hung heavy in the council circle. Then, unexpectedly, a new figure stepped into the firelight. Keme. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the gathering. He looked haggard, his clothing torn, his expression haunted. "I have returned to face judgment," he announced, his voice rough with emotion. "My jealousy led me to betray my people. I told the Bluecoats of our defenses and Takoda's presence." Chief Nahele's face hardened. "You admit to endangering the entire tribe?" "I do." Keme's shoulders slumped. "I believed I acted to protect us from Takoda's enemies, but in my heart I knew my true motivation." His eyes found Nita briefly before dropping in shame. "I was wrong. When I saw what the soldiers intended, not just Takoda's capture, but harm to our entire village, I realized my terrible mistake." "Why return now?" one elder demanded. "You could have fled." "Because I am Apache," Kame answered simply. "My shame is mine to bear before my people, not to hide from in exile." His words, spoken with genuine remorse, touched something in the gathering. The Apache valued courage and honesty, even in admitting grievous wrongs. From her medicine pouch, Nita's grandmother withdrew an object wrapped in ceremonial buckskin. She rose slowly, her ancient bones protesting, and made her way to the center of the council circle. There she carefully unwrapped the unity blanket strip, a narrow band of woven wool, only the width of 2 fingers, but nearly 6 feet long, its intricate pattern representing the joining of separate paths into one. Traditionally used in marriage ceremonies, this particular strip was ancient, its colors still vibrant despite generations of careful handling. When a couple married, the strip would be wrapped around their joined hands, symbolizing the binding of their lives. "I have carried this since I was a young woman," the medicine woman announced to the hushed gathering. "It has united many couples in our band, including Chief Nahele and his wife. Now I offer it for a different kind of binding." She turned to face both Takoda and Keme. "Two warriors stand before us. One born to our band, but who strayed from our path. one born to another band who has shown himself willing to die for our people. She held the unity blanket strip between them. This band can join two souls in marriage, or it can bind together what conflict has torn apart. Understanding rippled through the council. The old woman was offering a path forward, not erasing Keme's betrayal, but creating the possibility of redemption through reconciliation with the man he had wronged. Takoda stepped forward first. "I have carried hatred in my heart for too long," he admitted. "First for the bluecoats who killed my father, then for those who betrayed me." He looked directly at Keme. "That path leads only to more suffering." Keme raised his eyes, meeting Takoda's gaze with difficulty. "I do not deserve forgiveness. None of us deserves the mercy we sometimes receive," Takoda replied. The medicine woman held the strip toward them. After a moment's hesitation, both men extended their right arms. With deliberate movements she wrapped the ancient fabric around their wrists, binding them together in the same way it would join husband and wife. "What hatred has separated, let honor reunite," she intoned, her voice carrying surprising strength. "Before the tribe, make your pledge." "I pledge to set aside my jealousy and work for the good of the people," Kame said, his voice thick with emotion. "I pledge to defend this band as my own, and seek peace where possible," Takoda responded. When the ceremony concluded, Chief Naheli stood. "The council recognizes both the wrong done and the path to making it right. Kame will face consequences for his actions, but he remains one of us. Takoda has proven himself a true friend to our band." His eyes moved to his daughter. "And there is one more matter to address. Nita, come forward." Heart pounding, she joined her father in the circle's center. The medicine woman, still holding the unity blanket strip that now united former enemies, smiled knowingly. "My daughter has made her choice clear," the chief announced. "If Takoda of the Tonto band wishes to join with her, according to our ways, the council gives its blessing." Takoda's eyes found Nita's across the firelight, a question in their depths. "I do wish it," she said clearly, her voice carrying to all gathered, "as I have since the river." A year had passed since that night of reconciliation and commitment. The seasons had turned full circle, bringing the tribe back to their traditional summer grounds, not the original village, which remained too closely associated with the bluecoats, but an ancestral site farther into the mountains where springs ran cool and pine trees offered shelter from the desert heat. Much had changed in those 12 moons. The bluecoats had eventually stopped their intensive search for Takoda, their attention drawn to conflicts with other tribes farther north. Nkomne had served his penance by taking the most dangerous scouting missions, gradually earning back the trust of his people. Most significantly, Takoda had been formally adopted into the tribe through ancient ceremonies, his knowledge of warfare making him a valued advisor to Chief Nahele. And Nita, she had changed perhaps most of all. No longer just an apprentice, she now worked alongside her grandmother as a recognized medicine woman in her own right. Marriage to Takoda had not diverted her from this path, but had somehow deepened her connection to the healing ways. This particular morning found her kneeling beside a small stream, collecting water in the sacred life vessel, a ceramic jar decorated with symbols of fertility and continuation. The vessel's rounded belly was painted with intricate patterns of spirals, zigzags, and animal figures that told the story of their people's beginning. For generations it had been used in blessing ceremonies for expectant mothers, its waters believed to ensure safe delivery and healthy children. Nita's hands cradled the vessel carefully, her fingers tracing the ancient patterns as she had done many times in recent months. But today the gesture held new significance. The vessel was for her own ceremony now. "I thought I might find you here," came Takoda's voice from behind her. She smiled without turning. "Grandmother says I must collect the water at sunrise for the strongest blessing." He knelt beside her, his movements now completely free of the stiffness that had lingered for months after his imprisonment. "Does she know you sneak away every morning to practice with my bow as well?" Nita laughed softly. "A medicine woman who can defend herself is twice valuable to her people." His hand covered hers where it rested on the sacred life vessel, and 3 times valuable to her husband. The year of marriage had not diminished the warmth that spread through her at his touch. If anything, their bond had deepened with each shared day and night, each challenge faced together. "A council meets today," Takoda said, as they walked back toward the village. Nita carrying the water vessel carefully. "Representatives from 3 other Apache bands will attend. To discuss the new treaty offer?" she asked. He nodded gravely. "The Bluecoats want all Apache to move to the reservation at San Carlos. They promise food, protection, education, and take our freedom, our traditions, our very identity," Nita finished. The debate had consumed much of the tribe's attention in recent weeks. Some, particularly older members, who had seen too many young warriors die, favored accepting the inevitable. Others, mainly younger fighters, advocated continued resistance. "Your father has asked me to speak at the council," Takoda said. "My perspective as someone who has walked both paths, resistance and cooperation. What will you tell them?" He was silent for several steps, considering that there is no perfect choice, that survival sometimes requires bending like the willow rather than standing rigid like the oak. Nita studied his profile, the strength in his jaw, the wisdom in his eyes, that had come at such cost. "You believe we should accept the treaty. I believe we should negotiate better terms while we still have some leverage," he clarified. "The world is changing around us, Waterflower. We must find ways to preserve what matters most, while adapting to what cannot be avoided." The wisdom in his words resonated with her own thoughts. As a healer, she understood that sometimes tissues must be sacrificed to save the whole body. They reached the edge of the village where her grandmother waited outside their family dwelling. The old woman's face creased into a smile at the sight of the sacred life vessel. "You have the blessed water," she observed. "Good. We will conduct your ceremony at midday, before the council gathering." Takoda squeezed Nita's hand gently before releasing it. "I will leave you to your preparation." As he walked away toward the men gathering near the council fire, Nita felt a wave of emotion so powerful it momentarily took her breath. Pride in the man he had become, gratitude for the path that had brought them together, hope for what lay ahead. Her free hand moved instinctively to rest on her abdomen, where new life grew, a tiny being created from their union, carrying forward both their bloodline. The child would be born into uncertain times, with the tribe balancing precariously between tradition and change, independence and compromise. "He will be a bridge between worlds," her grandmother said, noticing the gesture. "Like his father, like you," Nita questioned with a raised eyebrow. "Are you so certain it is a son?" The old woman's eyes twinkled. "The sacred life vessel has whispered to me. A boy first, to learn the ways of both warrior and healer. Later, a daughter with your gift for seeing beyond what eyes can show." The prediction sent a shiver of wonder through Nita. 2 children, continuations of their joined path, extending into a future she could only glimpse in dreams. That afternoon, after her blessing ceremony had concluded with the sacred life vessel's water symbolically washing away fears of difficult birth, Nita sat beside Takoda at the Great Council. Representatives from other bands listened intently as he spoke of finding balance between resistance and adaptation, of preserving their people's heart while engaging strategically with the changing world. As his words wove vision and practicality together, Nita recognized the same wisdom that had brought him back to her after 10 years, the understanding that some promises transcended time and circumstance, that some bonds were meant to endure despite all obstacles. Later, as sunset painted the western sky in colors no human hand could replicate, they stood together by a small tributary of the Great Salt River, not the exact spot where he had pulled her from drowning, but a place that echoed with the memory of that first connection. Takoda placed his hand gently on her belly, his expression filled with wonder as he felt the slight roundness that had only recently become noticeable. "From water you came to me," he said softly, "and to water we return to honor what began here." Nita covered his hand with her own, the sacred life vessel's blessing still humming through her veins. "Not an ending," she corrected.